Good morning. It is time for this week's Market Snapshot. What has happened in the Northern Virginia real estate market in the last 7 days in under 5 minutes, hopefully. Okay, so we're going to go over what has happened in the last 7 days in the Northern Virginia real estate market, for specifically Fairfax County. If you have questions about other counties or more specific, like microscopic areas, like a specific city or something, let me know. I'm happy to do a market report for that as well. But we like to look at Fairfax County just to give us an overall view of what's going on in the Northern Virginia real estate market. So basically, the feel of the market is that the energy is picking up a little bit. Our open houses have had a lot more traffic. Our listings have had more showings. So we're starting to see that buyer activity pick up again, which is kind of surprising considering we're at the end of the summer. But just the way the market's going with the layoffs and everything with the government, it's been kind of a delayed summer. So it's an interesting layout. So let's look at the numbers so that we're not going based on feel. We're simply going based on what's actually happening in the market. So if you come in here, our black line, as always, is buyer activity, and you can see that we had a pretty significant decrease starting around the end of May, beginning of June. Buyer activity was just dropping off dramatically. Since the beginning of July, it's been on a pretty strong upward trend. Now, the last 7 days, we did see a little bit of a decrease in buyer activity, but that could have been because we had such a significant decrease the week before in inventory. So the teal line is our inventory. It's what's actually came on the market. So buyer activity in this report is properties that went under contract in the last 7 days. Inventory or supply is the number of new listings that came on the market in the last 7 days. So we're looking at the lead data versus lag data so that we can see, get real-time effect of what's going on and what you should expect in the market. So you can see that buyer activity decreased a little bit this past 7 days, inventory increased a little bit. So that brought this gap between supply and demand. It narrowed it a little bit. Last week it was here, the previous week it was here. So that narrowed that supply versus demand gap. So it brought us back down towards a little bit of a normal market. So if you look at the market weekly and you see the ups and downs, it's kind of a ride. So we can use that data to make offer decisions and for sellers to make selling decisions in that given week. But if we look at the overall trend, we'll start to see that we've kind of flatlined. We're kind of flatlining here with buyer activity, and we're flatlining with inventory. They're kind of sitting close together. They're going up and down, but they're sitting close together as far as the overall trend, which puts us in, buyer's market, seller's market, buyer's market, seller's market, but a little bit weaker. So this is where I think we're going to probably hover as we go into the fall and into the winter. We'll probably hover a little bit above in a seller's market, maybe right on that neutral market. But it's more of a fair and steady even market right now than it has been obviously over the last several years. This time of year last year we were in a pretty strong seller's market. So it's a more favorable market for buyers right now, which is a good thing. We needed a more even market. Sellers are still getting top market value for their properties because there are buyers out there and there are more buyers than there is inventory, but the buyers aren't just having to compete as much. So what this means for the sellers having to be more diligent in their pricing and more diligent in their preparation of the property and more patient with regards to the time that it's going to take for the property to go under contract. But they can still get that top market value. So what does this look like in actual contracts? So if we go to the Cardinal Title Group's trends for the last week, you'll see they had 172 contracts in, so that's what these trends are based on. We're going to focus on the Virginia numbers. So 61% of the properties sold either at list price, 35% at list price, or above list price, 26%. 39% went under list price. Does not mean that 39% went below market value. It could just mean that the property was overpriced for its current condition. So they had to drop that list price down to get it to market value. We may see this number increasing over time simply because one or two things will happen. If sellers remain in the mindset that they should get what their neighbor got 6 months ago, then we're going to see this number of under list price at properties increase, because what's going to happen is they need to come down to market value. If they're overpriced, they're going to have to come down to market value. Or if sellers and agents are educating the sellers, letting them know what the actual market status is, we may see this number decrease if they're pricing the property more accurately, and we may see this list price number going up. So you can see the 26% here. If we go down here to days on market, 36% of the properties sold in the first week, 24% sold in the first 21 days. So that's 60% in the first 21 days. And we have 61% of properties at or above list price. So basically what that tells us is if your property goes under contract in the first 21 days, it's likely going to be at the listing price or a little bit higher. What's interesting about these numbers is if you look at this 36% of properties that sold in the first 7 days, but only 26% went above asking price. So that means that only about that properties that came in and sold that were priced well got their asking price. They maybe weren't in competition. About 10% of those still went at the list price, because only 26% went above. So usually we see that correlation of the first 7 days and above list price a little bit closer together, because that usually means multiple offers. This tells us that maybe not so many properties had multiple offers. So for buyers, when you're going in and you're placing an offer, it's important to see what the situation is on that property and make your offer appropriate to the actual situation. So with regards to contingencies, the protections buyers are getting, the finance contingency, buyers were able to get 71% of them were able to get a finance contingency. Appraisal contingency, 71% were able to get appraisal contingencies, and 46% were able to get inspection contingencies. So that number's down a little bit from the last report. It was over 50% last time, but it's still up significantly from the previous reports where we were averaging in the 30% range. So it's favorable to buyers. They're getting their protections in the contracts. They're still paying 61% at or above list price, which means that sellers, 61% of sellers are getting at or above list price. Those are the ones that are prepared appropriately and listed at the appropriate price. But buyers are also able to get their finance contingent or their inspection contingency to get those protections in there. So overall, the market is a lot more balanced, which means that for buyers, you can make smart decisions, a little more favorable for you. And for sellers, if you do it right, you can still get top market value. If you're a buyer and you'd like to sit down for a consult and maybe do a discovery tour to see what houses and neighborhoods you might want to consider, this is a great time to do it. And then sellers, same thing. We're happy to sit down with you, walk through the house, give you ideas of staging, repairs you might want to make that'll give you a good return on investment, and let you know what your property might sell for in this market. So if you're interested in any one of those consultations, buyer or seller consultation at no charge, please reach out to us at 703-783-2143. And if you have any questions, same thing, reach out to us at that phone number. And we will see you on next week's Snapshot. Have a great weekend out there and stay safe.